Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the ATV Public Information Meeting at 6:05 on Monday, October 5th via Zoom. The Pownal Select Board will present and address questions relating to the special ATV vote to be held on October 13, 2020. Article 1, shall the Town of Pownal ordinance regulating all terrain vehicles, ATVs, adopted by the Select Board on July 9th, 2020 be disapproved, yes or no? We're going to have a presentation first, and then we will have comments, and we're going to let everybody speak for 3 minutes and hopefully get to everybody's questions and comments and concerns. Okay? So who would like to start first? You guys want to start with your presentation?
Yep, Bob has the presentation.
I think, yeah, I'll go ahead and start with the presentation. So let me share my screen here.
It's not shared here.
Let me go back to that.
Yep, so now you just need to get to your screen.
I am on the screen. I guess it only shared one screen. Hang on.
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties. We'll be right with you.
Go here.
Over here.
Just
make sure we
cancel.
Where's the full screen? The corner here? This thing?
No.
No, that's just everybody.
So, okay. Can I have this?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Bear with us. Sorry. This is all new to us.
So let me stop. Yeah, that's it. It stopped sharing. Here. I'm going to do the whole screen. Then I think that does any and everything I'm looking at.
There you go.
Oh, you got her.
Hit cancel on that. Don't end the meeting.
Okay. And let's go to presentation. Let's see how that comes out. Pre-record. Oh, wait a minute. Escape. I can't shut off my speakers. Or I can't. You're gonna have to shut off those speakers.
Yep.
That telephone on here, so I don't know how that works. I don't think you last time. Well, I'm going to take pictures and record the video.
Should we be hearing anything?
Where'd it go?
And
Can everyone please mute themselves?
you have to mute those two. And maybe even turn off the speaker.
We're gonna maybe have to just read it.
I think it did not.
This meeting.
Rich and diverse community of outdoor recreation enthusiasts.
Our apologies, everybody.
It wasn't us.
Are we good to
You
start?
just,
You need to turn that speaker off.
I have, I will go off.
Not the,
I don't know. You had a picture, but then I went away. Oh, no, pictures.
Or bikes, riding.
What if I swing out of room?
Okay,
that might do it.
how to reduce the screen and then get to the actual speaker part and mute it. You can't do it with this one, you know.
Welcome to the public hearing regarding the ATV ordinance unanimously passed by the Pownal Select Board on July 9th, 2020. We created this presentation to not only give a general overview of the specifics of the ATV ordinance, but to also discuss recent state legislation regulating ATV ridership, VASA's role in ATV ridership in Vermont, and also to answer commonly asked questions. Pownal has a rich and diverse community of outdoor recreation enthusiasts. Common sights seen here are bikes riding on our highways and roads, joggers and walkers taking in our beautiful views, dirt bikes, horseback riders, and also off-roading, including the use of ATVs and UTVs. Pownal's natural outdoor resources provide ample opportunity for a wide variety of family, recreational, and hopefully economic growth opportunities. All-terrain vehicle, or ATV, means any non-highway recreational vehicle, except snowmobiles, having no less than 2 low-pressure tires, 10 pounds per square inch or less, not wider than 64 inches, with 2-wheel ATVs having permanent, full-time power to both wheels, and having a dry weight of less than 1,700 pounds, when used for cross-country travel on trails or on any one of the following or a combination thereof: land, water, snow, ice, marsh, swampland, and natural terrain. An ATV shall not include an electric personal assistive mobility device. ATVs used in agricultural, forestry, and commercial use are exempt. In Vermont, there is a recent trend in many municipalities of creating ATV ordinances for the purposes of opening town roads for travel to and from riding locations, not only to give more allowance to ATV ridership, but to help with economic development as part of a robust outdoor recreation economy plan. Some towns in Vermont that have passed such ordinances are Corinth, Braintree, Derby, Sheffield, Newport, Craftsbury, Barton Village, Highgate, Stockbridge, Sutton, Alburgh, Whittington, Concord, Linden, and Guilford. ATV use is a growing pastime in Vermont. Specifically in Pownal, we have many people for whom this is an important hobby and family-oriented form of recreation. The ATV conversation in Pownal is not a new one, and it has never been a conversation without disagreement.
No.
Don't play.
Primary purpose of this ordinance is to encourage the hobby of ATV and UTV riding while also promoting safe and responsible usage. The ordinance also intends to make riders more visible for law enforcement, subsequently strengthening a culture of legal, safe, and respectful ridership in the town of Pownal. Also, like legal allowances for vehicles such as dirt bikes and tractors, the ordinance intends to allow for passage on town roads for the purposes of getting to riding locations, both private and public. There have been multiple attempts to facilitate public discussion and creation of an ATV ordinance for the last 15 years in Pownal. This present ordinance was modeled off of the VLCT model policy, and it incorporates its recommended best practices and regulations. Following are the requirements of riders. Riders must hold a valid driver's license. They must wear a helmet. They must be at least 16 years of age. Riders under 18 must have completed or be currently enrolled in the state-sanctioned ATV safety course. Requirements for the machines: they must hold liability insurance equivalent to that of any other motor vehicle. They must be registered. They must have a decibel level lower than 82 decibels. And for comparison, a lawnmower runs at around 90 decibels, a tractor runs at approximately 100 decibels, and a chainsaw runs at 110 decibels. Since the board's intention in writing this ordinance was primarily to allow our citizens access to their riding locations, approximately 65% of our residential roads were opened to ATV use. 23 roads are closed to ATV use except to residents of those roads. If no one living on any of those roads owns an ATV or allows ATV use on their property, then ATVs are completely illegal on those roads. State Highways 7 and 346 are completely closed to ATV traffic, except to cross at a 90-degree angle. This is determined by state legislation and is unrelated to the ordinance. None of Pownal's roads are open to be used as trails for recreational purposes. They are only open to serve as connectors between home and riding locations. Additionally, as determined by state statute, all Class 4 roads that are not maintained in the winter are legally open to ATV use. Presently, most riding locations in Pownal are on private property, and riders must have permission from the landowner to ride on that property. Neighbors and friends in Pownal have a long history of allowing each other to ride on each other's properties, similar to allowing hunting and fishing. There is no statute or legal authority to compel landowners to disclose or map where they allow riding on their private property to their invited guests. This kind of riding needs to be differentiated from the concept of, quote, public trails or a public trail system. Based on recent legislation, VASA trails and any municipal roads opened to ATVs by a town ordinance is under the supervisory authority of VASA. Riders on these trails and roads must have a VASA TAD or trail access decal to ride these public trails and roads. A VASA trail cannot be created on any town or private property without the express permission of the landowner. A landowner agreement with VASA makes the landowner free of liability. ATVs will adhere to all speed and safety regulations, including a maximum speed of 25 miles an hour. ATV use on open town roads will be allowed from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. from May 16th until November 30th. All ATV operation on open roads is completely prohibited from December 1st until May 15th. There are also additional regulations during spring breakup. In order for a machine to be legal on open Pownal roads, it must bear a town-issued sticker that identifies the machine, even if the machine and rider are from another town or state. According to state statute, the machine must also have a VASA trail access decal. Pownal contracts with the Bennington Sheriff's Department for a set amount of hours weekly to help with enforcement of all laws and ordinances. Additionally, VASA has recently contracted with the Bennington Sheriff's Department and provided them use of a side-by-side for use in off-road patrolling. There is no cap for the amount of enforcement VASA is willing to provide to Bennington County. The VASA contract is specifically earmarked for enforcement of ATV regulations.
Hey, Rebecca.
So you gotta hit stop share. He has to hit stop share.
Oh. Gotta hit stop share.
I have to hit stop here. Okay. Yep. There we go.
So Bob, if you wanted to have me share the synopsis of the recent VASA legislation, you can share that document and I'll read through that quickly. I'm not muted.
She shows it's muted. You show is muted from here.
We need those.
I'll come in there.
That's horrible.
I'm not muted in there.
Well, the unmute button here does nothing. Sorry.
That's fine. So Bob, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Unmuted. And then we don't have a camera on this one, so that one needs to turn around, I think. Turn toward us. All right, so I think with that was a good synopsis of what the ordinance does and what the new legislation does. And to be clear, that new legislation was passed since July, so it does add to some of the regulations that we put in the ordinance. I think at this point we can probably open it up for questions.
Sure.
All right, so we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. If you can raise your hand and for public comment.
Is there anybody out there that'd like to ask a question? Please raise your hand.
Yeah, that camera. Can we put a camera on that one and turn it on from there?
Yep.
That's good.
There you go.
Okay, I didn't want
All right.
Do you see any hands raised?
that. Yeah.
Is there anybody out there that'd like to ask a question? Please raise your hand.
You can tell when someone has their hand raised, right, Bob?
I believe so. It has to be in their little square, right?
Yeah, usually. Unless they wave at us in the picture.
I don't see any hands raised. That can't be true.
There's nobody out there with questions.
There's nothing in the chats.
If there's anybody out there that'd like to ask a question, could you please raise your hand, please? And please remember 3 minutes.
Or comment. Question or comment.
Yep. Well, while we're waiting, does any of you guys have anything to add that you would like to add more than what we've already presented this tonight?
I personally think the legislative action that has taken place actually has strengthened our ordinance, in my opinion, as far as safety and accountability with enforcement.
I think that's true too. We do have And to be clear with everybody, when Mr. Hale said that he doesn't like the term self-enforcement, he meant the term because people misinterpret it. What was meant by self-enforcement is the fact that the clubs, the riders, will work with the local sheriff. Can you not hear me?
No, it's echoing. I
Oh.
just muted you there.
Okay. Right. That the local club, the local club and the riders would work with the local sheriff's department, but the sheriff is the enforcer.
Correct.
So, and that's not going to change. The hours that we contract with the sheriff weekly for enforcing all of our ordinances and for patrolling our streets is one bucket of hours. Over and above that are the hours that VASA is paying directly to the Bennington Sheriff's Department and giving them additional hours and an ATV to use for off-road travel and enforcement. And that is over and above anything that the town is paying for, and it is free to the town. The town doesn't pay for any of that. So, and all of that was a product of the new legislation. So I'm very pleased to see that happen. And with that, we'll take a look and see if anybody's got their hands up.
My personal hope is with this, if it continues to pass, is that it helps build on community growth, especially with people having to stop and ask for permission from private landowners. And maybe we'll get back into a little more community activities, whether it's ATV related or not. You're gonna, the term press the flesh as far as a face-to-face meeting with individuals. Hopefully that'll help raise awareness of, who we are with each other. And it'll be a positive outcome.
I certainly hope so too. That's the way that I'm viewing this is it would be nice if the town were to go forward with opening up more recreational opportunities and everybody respecting everybody else's recreational opportunities. The main thing to keep in mind here is that the roads that are open are not open as trails. That's a fact. And ATV riders don't particularly like to ride on roads. They want to ride at their riding locations. But if somebody down at and I'll use myself as an example, down at the foot of Mount Anthony Road wants to ride on my property and I want to let him do it, that's really between me and him. And that's going to save him from having to, him or her from having to load that up in a trailer and drive up. Just, you can come up the road and drive and ride on the property for the day. Because of the new legislation, that also requires written permission, which is either a pre-agreement or a fax machine. So, in order to ride on somebody's private property, written permission is going to be required, and you have to have it on your person.
And isn't it true right now, if we don't have an ordinance, all the other stuff that they say that they have to have will not be in effect, and they can just pretty much ride and do whatever they prefer, right? Correct?
Well, it would still be illegal
It'd still be illegal, but there's nothing
but
to follow.
but you'll have exactly what you have today, which is the illegal activity.
The illegal
and
activity.
Then, you'll still have the illegal activity. You won't have a lot of the additional enforcement, and you won't have the legal riders out on the road also patrolling and reporting the illegal riders.
Right.
That's something that does happen and happens very well, and we hear that from every club. Some of these clubs operate really well. I think the one that comes to mind is the Reedsboro Club, is really well organized and well executed, and they are very interested in maintaining a positive image for ATVs. And it's this kind of thing that where you bring it out of the shadows and allow people to ride legally and to be able to pursue their hobbies. It's one going to help open up more trails. It's going to help. It's going to help with the enforcement, and it's going to make it a legal activity where the unregistered, uninsured vehicles will be quickly identified and weeded out fairly quickly. That doesn't mean it won't. That stuff won't ever happen, but it'll happen at a much less frequency, and we'll have a lot more people being able to find it.
And the new ATV group that's formed, in
Regulate.
Pownell. They're doing a lot of good things in the community. They helped with the bicycle race. They're gonna help with the church bazaar thingy. They're doing other things in town. They're doing a phenomenal job. Just want people to know
Oh,
that.
I think we do have a raised hand. Hang on, Jim, I'll unmute you.
Please state your name and ask your question or your comment, please.
Hello
Jim,
there.
Oh, there you go. You should be unmuted now, Jim.
All right, can you hear me?
Are you there, Jim?
Hello, can you hear me?
Does that one have to be unmuted?
I don't think so.
Jim, we can't hear you. Not sure what the issue is.
Wasn't plugged in,
Doesn't look
so
like
it
he's
died.
muted.
No, he's not. He's definitely not muted. I don't know why we can't hear him. You want, maybe turn that speaker on, maybe. And I'll turn this one off. Oh, this one is off. That could be it.
All right, Jim, you want to try again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello? Can you move your camera down? Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? First of all, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to put the presentation together here. I'm sure you all do understand that I am totally against this ordinance. Basically, number one is that the process that was taken, I do not feel was really a good process. I've looked around and I've seen many ordinances that have been developed in the state of Vermont. And I appreciate you listing all the ones that have opened up roads, but there are many out there in towns that have not opened up roads. And I just want people to understand that. Number two is I don't think that opening up every single road in Pownal is the right thing to do right now. I think we have 5 roads that are open. We have a ATV club that is now part of Pownal. We have an AVASA organization that has now come part of this whole situation. And we also, unfortunately, don't know what relationship the sheriff's department is going to play in this because they were not participating in this discussion at all. And the new legislature and the AVASA, and Bob, no, I'm sorry, they were not invited to any of the meetings that you had for this ordinance. They came maybe later on. So the bottom line just comes that I really don't think it's a well-written document. I really don't think that we took the time to have a discussion. I will say that I look back at the first meeting just to see how we all started in this whole situation. And I can see from the start that this is basically a one-sided issue. And a majority of the people of the town of Pownal have not been able to be a part, or maybe not, I'm not going to say a majority because I'm not sure how the vote's going to happen. I'm going to just say that there is a portion of this town that has not been invited into this discussion. And that I just hope that there is a way that we could move forward. Unfortunately, the situation that we're in right now is not going to make us move forward. It's basically made a division. And one thing I did hear at the meeting was that you didn't want to bring 2 explosive groups together. Well, I'm sorry, but you did bring 2 explosive groups together, not in the meeting hall, but by way of social media. And it is very disturbing of what I'm hearing from the outside people about what's going on in Pownal. And I respect basically what you're trying to do, but I really do not believe you guys did it in the proper way. The town of Vermont, or that town of Williamstown, took 7 months, and I'd love to have you within the next 24 hours go to their site, see the procedure, the process that they took. They had a committee. They went out there and got as much information as they could receive from manufacturers to other towns to people writing in letters, and it was all very transparent. And if you go to their website, you'll see ATV Trail Committee. And it's a very, very, very interesting process that they took. And I wish we had done the same process. Now, I'm not going to go on any further. I know I've probably used my 3 minutes, But maybe the best thing that I'm going to ask you right now is, I don't want an answer, but I want to know, maybe take the next 20 hours, or maybe it's 19 hours before the agenda comes out on Thursday. But maybe I'd like to see you guys put on the agenda that you're going to rescind the decision that you made to adopt this ordinance. And let's start a process that we can include the whole town and bring it to a March election. And I'm sorry, Angie, if you don't agree with me, but it's my opinion of that we should go into a good process and bring it to a vote. And I would love to see a vote happen where we all vote for the ordinance. I'm not going to be here to say vote against it. I'm not going to say here vote for it. I'm basically going to say I'm totally against it. Thank you very much, and you have a good night.
What am I doing wrong?
Nothing.
Try it, Hal?
No, I just wanted to make a couple of comments on that. It was very difficult to get this started, and to remind everyone, litigation against the town started on this matter before we had our first meeting to discuss what we wanted to put in this ordinance. We had that first meeting on June 2nd, and that's when that started even before we got to that first meeting. So it was contentious, and there has been an awful lot of information that's been out that is misleading the public as to what this ordinance does. Hopefully, we cleared some of that up today, and then hopefully we can clear more of that up on Wednesday. But Jim, you had a lot of valid points, valid concerns, and thank you for participating.
Is there anybody else out there? Would you please raise your hand?
Is there a hand up? There is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Jim again.
No, that's not Jim. Right here.
Oh no, he's lowered his hand.
I think that's Mr. Hillman. I believe that's Mr. Hillman.
I'll be turning it.
Who's timing?
Are you trying to unmute?
I am unmuting him now.
Yep. Working on unmuting you, Mr. Hillman.
There we go. All right, Mr. Hillman, you're unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you very much for having the meeting. I think it's always good to have people gather and find out information. I want you to double check maybe with town council, because I thought that the legislation you're referring to came out a week or two before you passed the ordinance. And if that's the case, it would have been good to have a procedure with public comment and attorney input as to whether the ordinance would be harmonious with that legislation. I'm just saying you can check the chronology on that. I do want to suggest that some of the statements in Mr. Jarvis's presentation may not square with the reality. I heard him mention a number. He said that there's a trend of, quote, many municipalities, unquote, in Vermont allowing ATVs on roads. There are some, but it's certainly not many, and certainly not many in the southwestern part of Vermont. Bennington does not, Shaftesbury does not, Arlington does not. This ordinance, on the other hand, which would open up a substantial majority of our roads, not only to our residents, but also to people from anywhere in the United States with a decal. This ordinance would serve as a real magnet, I believe, for riders from all over. As a second homeowner who chose to live in Pownal 30 years ago because of the natural beauty that Mr. Jarvis referred to at the beginning of the presentation. I, of course, pay substantial local town taxes, which I'm happy to support the local schools. I'm wondering how many will follow me in the sense of what analysis or what data or what testimony you might have taken to consider the possible effect on future second homeowners and indeed future permanent residents who may not be ATV hobbyists who want to ride on roads. You haven't considered, in my view, at least I have not heard any learned discussion about the possibility that this could have a chilling effect and could be a deterrent on future second homeowners, future new residents who are now learning, like the folks in Winhall, learning how to work from remote, strengthening the economies of other towns.
Your time's up. If you want to close.
Mr. Hillman, your time's up. Could you please close up your statement, sir?
Close up?
Your time's almost up. Could you please close your statement up?
Well, I think that this is a turning point for the town of Pownal. I fear the direction that you are trying to put us on of being the ATV magnet. And I fear for the economy and the town plan, which emphasizes all other forms of outdoor recreation, but not a word on ATVs. So I feel you've turned your back on the growth of this town by not agreeing to rescind this ordinance. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't mean to be rebutting anybody who talks, but I did want to talk about the invites out of staters. I just want to make it 100% clear to everyone that you cannot ride an ATV on a Pownal road unless you have a Pownal sticker. That's still in place. This town is in complete control who comes here. If you have a VASA sticker and you're from the North Kingdom and you want to take VASA trails all the way down to Pownal, you still can't ride on our roads unless you come into the town office and prove registration, prove insurance, and buy a town sticker. So, and
Sure.
How many we sell is going to be entirely up to us.
Well, that's just, excuse me, may I be recognized to respond? May I be recognized to respond to
Yes,
that?
go ahead, Mr. Hillman.
Sorry?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Bob, I wish I had confidence in that, but there's no cap on the number of Pownal decals, Pownal stickers that can be allotted to guests. You open up 19 roads to residents and their guests. I don't know how you're going to say no to residents who want to have lots of guests come ride. There's no provision in here for saying no to people who request Pownal stickers. I think it's a recipe for disaster, quite frankly, because it hasn't been given enough thought. And instead, our focus needs to be on identifying real off-road trail locations and helping the ATVers get enough parking so that they, like every other ATVer, can use ramps and pickups and vans to get the vehicle from one place to another, rather than defy all the safety standards about no ATVs on roads. And as a preface point, we have had a number of accidents in recent years, I went back over them tonight, of people from other towns who've had accidents, sometimes serious, on our roads where they should not have been. This is a serious current enforcement problem, and it would seem to me that the way a town could go about this is to get our ducks in a row on current enforcement before we start the work of building trails, identifying trails, and letting these hobbyists do their enjoyment where it's properly done. But turning over way in excess of a majority of our roads with uncapped numbers of riders seems to me a recipe for disaster. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Hillman.
again,
Have a good night.
I just want to correct the uncapped. That will come in a policy of this town, and it'll be up to each select board as to what that cap is going to be. It's not part of the ordinance. It'll be part of the sticker policy.
that we haven't developed yet
That's correct.
until the
But
ordinance
it's
is
gonna be
passed.
entirely up to the town. That's still true as to how many we sell.
Well,
So,
it's true. All of you would agree with me that there are lots of things that are referred to in the ordinance, but are not at all fleshed out. For example, you had a lengthy document of frequently asked questions. That's not a legislative part of the ordinance. It doesn't carry any weight or force and effect. There are lots of things you've left for future boards to do that leave holes that could be ridden through at ease and leave a lot of ambiguity. It's hard to imagine a statute that is supposed to respect quiet enjoyment, which is out the window, quite frankly, in this ordinance.
Mr. Hillman, I believe you had your time, and I appreciate your comments. But we put the frequently asked questions up so everybody would know what was up there. Anybody that's in the town that has an opinion, they may have the same questions or they had a different question. Now, if anybody else out there has their hand up and would like to add, we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good night, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else out there would like to ask a question or comment? Please raise your hand.
is let me unmute him and ask. Jim, you look like you've got your hand up. I think I just unmuted you. No, I guess I didn't. There we go.
No,
Jim, I just
no, I've spoken my piece, and I just hope that everyone else understands what I'm looking for, that there are too many roads opening, and thank you very much.
Okay, sorry, Jim. It looked to me like the hand was up. I guess it's.
No,
I'm sorry, Jim. I just muted you.
Another thing I wanted to point out, anybody that owns an ATV, some people question whether or not opening the roads up, they think they're trying to open it up for trails. The tires on those, one, are not designed for pavement, and they are very expensive. And the more, if you were to ride on pavement, you would wear them out quicker. And so it's not really purposeful to be traveling haphazardly just on the roads, with, not actually heading to a trailhead. So just little food for thought.
I do want to talk about the trailer also. Just the if I'm going to be riding in New Hampshire, well, first, to be clear and in full disclosure, I'm not an ATV enthusiast. I own an ATV and I only ride it on my own property. So I'm not really all that familiar with the trails, with that kind of thing. But it doesn't seem to me that it would be very common to use a trailer to go from one place in the town you live in to another place in the town you live in. The trailer is more for if I want to have a weekend in New Hampshire or head out up north or go somewhere. So anybody coming here from out of town will almost certainly be trailering the vehicle in. You have to, you can't get here any other way. So and that's the more appropriate use of the trailers. Just my opinion and my thoughts, but and I'll shut up now and see if anybody else has their hand up.
Rod, can anybody see me with my hand up?
Oh, and you're unmuted.
Yep.
You can go ahead and talk.
Go ahead, sir. Please say your name.
Okay. I have a couple of things living around here where I do. There's some fields.
Excuse me, sir. Could you please speak into your device a little louder?
Okay.
You're either too far away. It's very hard to hear you.
How is this?
Can you get closer?
I can't get too much closer.
There you go. Just talk loud. You got
There
it.
you go.
All right. How's this? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
It's a faint, so try to speak loud.
Okay. Old Military Road is where I live, and I noticed part of it is designated a trail, unfortunately. And there's a big field off Old Military Road where at 2, 3, 4, 5, there are big beer parties, big parties, tech parties, and rallies with this and that and the other thing, and it's private property. And the woman who owns it has tried to stop it, but she's had no luck. The second thing is, my wife and I, when we're driving around in our car the other day on Old Military, we came around a slight curve, and there's what looked to be like an 8-year-old with an ATV and a 6-year-old with a small motorbike on the side of the road. And I'd hate to hit them, but they're right there where they could easily be hit. I don't know what stupid parents would allow their kids to do that, but apparently they do. Now, my main concern with all this is, I think it's, I give you credit for writing this ordinance, whoever did it. And it's very well written. And I'd be happy with it, other than I'm not sure having everybody ride all over the roads is going to be a good idea. But I don't see how it's going to be enforced at all. I mean, who's going to let the 6 and 8-year-old out there in an ATV and a small motorcycle, dirt bike, whatever? How's that going to be enforced?
To be 100% clear there, that's illegal today, will be illegal with this ordinance as well. And this ordinance would not invite more of that activity. It would in fact bring some enforcement on both of those things. If you've got an ATV in the hands of the sheriff's department, and they can use that for patrolling, and in particular, we've got more hours to the sheriff's department specific to ATVs. Both of those situations would be, this would bring more attention to both of those situations. So let's start with because there was two situations. Let's start with the field that's up on Old Military Road. The field on Old Military Road is private property, and no one should be on there. And I do believe that is one of the locations of the after-hour party. As we heard from Danny Hale, the executive director of VASA, when we start complaining about those to the sheriff's department as part of the ATV enforcement, that makes its way up to VASA, and they start allocating resources down here to take care of that exact situation. And that's something we didn't have until we started talking about the ordinance. And then in addition, having legal riders on the road. Remember, this ordinance doesn't allow anyone under 16 to ride anywhere on the road. And if you're under 18, you have to show completion of a safety class or be enrolled in a safety class and have a valid driver's license. So it also allows, what this does is put more legal riders on the road to address, and they would also be addressing those situations. As well as the sheriff's department. Remember, he's got an ATV now. He would be up in that area because that's one of the legal places to ride. Well, I hope that helps alleviate some of your concerns.
No,
but remember, that's happening today without the ordinance.
It doesn't alleviate them at all. Now, I've called and talked to the sheriff down here that patrols our area, and he frankly said, hey, we only have 30 hours a week, and we are not permitted, or our policy is not to chase anybody. Now, let's say there's a party up there 2 in the morning, and I call the sheriff. Well, who do I call? Well, they're all sleeping.
Oh, the sheriff.
And then what are they going to?
So what's changed is that they've been given assigned.
Yeah, so things have changed very recently. So things have changed recently, and you're right. When you call the sheriff's department, they do say that we've only got 30 hours. That's no longer true. They now have a contract with VASA, and that gives them additional enforcement resources, including a side-by-side.
State police after hours.
I'm sorry, I may have misinformed you. So the state police after hours is who you call, and then during hours is the sheriff's department. But you do get after hours enforcement.
If they page out the sheriff.
And that's all new. This is all because of this discussion, because of this ordinance.
They signed that contract in the department, I believe, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that new contract is as of 2 weeks ago.
Where is that contract?
I'm sorry?
Where can we see that
You're
contract?
talking to Rod. I'm sorry, Mr. Hammond, that's not your turn.
Okay, let me,
Rod, I'm sorry about that. Could you please repeat the question?
I'm
Yes, thank you.
sorry.
Since there's been reference to a contract, I believe, between VASA and the sheriff,
Mr. Hillman, please recognize you.
Rod, I'm sorry, could you please continue? Rod, are you done?
Okay.
yes, may I try again? It's a quick question. It's a quick question.
You're
This is Rod, and
Please wait your turn. You've had 2 chances already. Now Mr. Rod is talking.
I'm sorry about that, Rod. Go ahead.
this is Rod. I'm talking.
Yes,
A couple of things. A couple of things. I think, first of all, this should be held on the day when voting is held. I don't know how many people are going to show up or why the select board decided they couldn't have it on November 3rd, but be that as it may, this is important to the town. Secondly, the fact that a no means yes and a yes means no seems to me idiotic. People aren't going to know what they're doing. In fact, I even have to remember myself, if I want to vote no, I vote yes. So I think both of these things should be put on hold and drop back and put something out there that at least people can understand and understand how they're voting. Now,
Okay.
I don't have a lot of confidence. I will, the next time we hear noise up back, I will try calling the state police. And
So after hours, they police, during hours, the sheriff's department.
And as my wife just said, it's every night they're up there. And I don't know, 9 o'clock at night, is that when the ATVs are not supposed to ride anymore?
That's correct. I remember the ordinance is not in effect.
So if we hear one at 10, 11, 12 at night, we should call the state police.
That's correct.
Is that what we're saying?
That's correct. That is correct. And if I could address a couple of those. I'm sorry, Rod. Okay.
Okay.
So, I have to agree with you about the word. It is confusing. It is dictated by Vermont statute, so we have no control over the word.
I'm getting a lot of static from you guys, so I'm not sure I
I
heard
did
what
hear,
that said.
I heard.
Anyway, whoever wrote the thing did a nice job. I think it's handled wrong. I think it should be a vote on voting day, and it should be clear. If a no is a no, it should say no. If a yes is a yes, it should say yes.
And thank you.
And
And unfortunately, we have no wording of the ballot.
Thank you, Mr. Rod. You have a good night. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Mr. Hillman, if you have a question, please raise your hand.
Is there anybody else that has questions?
Yeah, is there anybody else out there first? Because Mr. Hillman's already spoken twice.
I don't see anybody else. If Mr. Hillman wants to speak.
All right, so Mr. Hillman, I'm gonna let you speak one more time, please.
Can you unmute my video, please? I'm still muted on video.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll spare you the mask anyway. No, I simply wanted to know because Mr. Jarvis and Mr. Gardner have been referring to I want to get it right, to a contract between VASA and the sheriff. I believe that's the contract that they're talking about. And so I'm not a voter, I'm a second homer, but I'm interested in this issue and I will be a voter when I move up there completely, but I would like to see that contract. I don't think that's an unreasonable request, especially with the town voting now on this ordinance.
If you go to the VASA website, you'll be able to see that.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, it's not-
That's true. But that would be something that the town could not sign that contract, so that would be asking the sheriff or total purpose request to see if they're allowed to show that contract or asking them.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of static coming from the boardroom. I couldn't make that out.
I was to say that, that the contract, the town of Pownal is not involved in that contract, so if you'd like to see a copy of that, I imagine you need to ask the Bennington Sheriff's Department or VASA itself. So I would direct you, there to see if they can share a copy of that contract with you.
Thank you for allowing me to question.
I'll have a good night, sir. Is there anybody else out there that'd like to ask a question? Or a statement, or make a comment?
Oh, wait, one person trying to get in. I just let one more person in. If you were coming in to make a comment.
Or ask a question, please raise your hand. Let me see your name.
Yes.
Rhonda, do you have a question? Rhonda, are you there?
Hello, Rhonda.
Can you hear me?
Rhonda, do you have a question?
We actually didn't have a question. We were just trying to join in.
Okay. Go ahead, ma'am, you have a question?
I think she said she didn't.
Now,
No, okay. Sorry about that, thank you. Since there's no other questions, would anybody else like to say anything?
I'll just remind everybody that we'll have another public hearing 2 days from now, 7. And if you think of anything else you want to say, or you want to come in, I guess everybody gets 6 minutes to become quiet.
And we can put a copy of that, presentation, on the Facebook page and the website.
Okay, great. And that meeting is Wednesday the 7th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. With nothing more than entertain a motion,
Motion to adjourn.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, have a good night, hopefully we'll see you Wednesday.
Thank you.
Next agenda.
I think that's